Hi and welcome to Hive's Under Construction. I'm Hiver, and we're going to take a look at the book of the Outcast. Before we jump into that, a little bit of housekeeping. I have been absent for a while. A few reasons for that, namely Some City Radio podcast that I helped create is wrapping up its 14th episode as we speak. We've just held SumpCon in October, which was our first meeting of listeners and the people who create the podcast, where we just played Necromunda for a full day, and that was really good fun. I've been trying to get my Van Sar finished, so I'm finally getting some paint on them, and I'll be looking at those in a video coming up in the next couple of days. GW sent me a free copy of this book, which has given me a little bit of a kick up the arse to get a video out and let some people know what the book's all about. So Book of the Outcast is the latest expansion for Necromunda from Games Workshop, and it adds a whole load of new features that you can add into your existing games. You've got the Outcast gang creation system, which opens up tons of flexibility to bring in fighters from all across the game, or your own crazy creations, create a gang around them and run them through one of the pre-existing campaigns. It also includes a new campaign system within the book, which is based around this cool new settlement feature, which we'll go over in a bit. You get new tactics for an Outcast gang, so a whole new D66 table of individual tactics for those. You also get a new hanger-on available to all gangs, 2 new dramatis personae, and probably one of the more exciting aspects of the book is 42 new weird powers to be used by psykers, which is really cool. So let's have a look. So I've seen a lot of people talking online about what the Book of Outcast is and trying to second guess what these new rules mean. Now, while it does open up a whole new plethora of ways to play Necromunda and to build a gang within Necromunda, it's not a pick and mix. There are restrictions in place to stop breaking the game completely. So you can take anyone as a leader of an Outcast gang. And in theory, you could take anything with a fighter profile, but it does have notes within the book saying that it's best to get arbitrator kind of permission for some of the more crazy builds. So like a scrap code Ambot gang that worship Ambots, a crazy cult built around them. It's feasible. It is doable. It would no doubt be a lot of fun to try, but it's not necessarily going to bring a lot of balance to a game. Anyone with a fighter card can be turned into a leader, and you can use their fighter card as is, so you get access to their weapons, skills and stats. You could scrap those, just use the model as a proxy, and then build your own leader using the tools within the book to do that. So this gives us reason to take those awesome Forge World models that loads of us have been buying up and maybe seeing very little action on the board with. You can build a gang around them, which is fucking sweet. And I wouldn't be surprised if the next thing we see after the Outcast release is a slew of Forge World dramatis personae models, hangers-on, etc., the ones that we haven't seen already, because there's a really good reason to buy them. You're going to get them on the board, you're going to use them, you're going to tailor them to your needs, and you can run through a whole campaign with them, which is really, really cool. Alternatively, you can just create a totally unique leader, and the way you go about that is that you get a choice of 4 stat lines that you can choose from, and it can be more like an agile kind of assassin build, or a strong, burly brawler build, and then you're going to go with Affiliation. Now, Affiliation gives you a little bit of flavour. Now, you can be clanless, which means that you don't have any affiliation, and there's a bonus for that insofar as that you aren't affected by being an outlaw or a law-abiding gang, which means that you can get access to the black market and the trading post with no restrictions, which is really cool. But you can't then go into alliance with anyone because you're totally unaffiliated. And then you've got clan affiliation, which gives you affiliation with one of the 6 main houses, and that means that you maybe a former member of that house, and while you aren't considered part of the house anymore, you still have some kind of contacts who trust you and respect you, so you gain access to the trading post, the house list for weaponry and equipment for that gang. Now, you don't get access to the prospects or the super champs, so there are limitations. You don't get access to the specialist skill trees or the gang novelty, so like Cybertechnica or legendary names, etc., but you just get their equipment and weapons. And another cool aspect is that you do get access to exotic pets. And then you've got Merchant Guild. Now, Merchant Guild affiliation means that you have to choose one of the merchant guilds to align with. So that could be the House of Coin, the Promethean Guild, Slavers Guild, etc. And the way that works is you'll get access to the weapon that their delegation can take into the game. So from the trading post, you overrule any restrictions that might be in place if you are clanless. Now, a clanless leader can only take weapons and equipment up to rarity 9 at creation. There's no restrictions through a campaign and going forward, but that initial access to weaponry is limited by that rarity. A merchant guild or a clan house, etc., gives you ways to kind of override that. So now you can take access to anything that those merchant guilds delegations bring into the game. Criminal organisations, much the same. You align with one, you get access to the weapons that their delegation bring, and you can't align with any other criminal delegation or any other alliance. Sorry. Noble house, again, you align with one, but you can align with others and be affiliated with others, and you get access to the ones that their delegation bring again. If you weren't creating your own leader and your own champions, etc., you could choose to use the delegation Outcast gang list, and they've got a load of the delegations that the different factions can send in. So the noble houses, the merchant guilds, they're delegations that you get access to when you align with them during a normal campaign. They become the foundation of your gang. They aren't extras to come in alongside. They become your leader, your champ, or your leader and your champions, or a leader, a champion and a ganger. So we'll take the Pyromantic Conclave. They're going to cost you 450 credits. The Pyrocean Lord is going to be your leader. The Pyromagia is going to be your champion, and the Cinder is going to be your ganger. Now, you can't split them up. There's no way changing them around. That's the roles they have to take. You can't only take one of those. You've got to spend those 450 credits, which obviously leaves you 550 credits to build the rest of your gang around that. It's just a really cool way, again, of getting those less assigned miniatures onto the board. Some of them we haven't even got miniatures for. It just allows you to get some of those crazier aspects that are hidden back in the House of books, etc., and get them more into focus. So House Catalyst Carnival, which I thought looked really creepy and cool. You could build a gang around those. So you would have the Masked Killer as your leader, a Mind Frayed as your ganger, and then you'd build the rest of the gang with the remaining credits from that. So you've picked your stat line, you've picked your affiliation, which has given you access to certain equipment and weapons, and you've either gone delegation gang or non-delegation gang, and now you're going to pick archetypes. Now, your leader and your champions can both pick archetypes. Your champion only gets access to one stat line, but this kind of decides what role they play, whether it's a sniper or just a guy getting stuck in with his fists, or a Wyrd using psychic powers. So it creates a really in-depth level of flexibility for your leader. A little bit less so, but still cool for your champion. So your Outcast champion, obviously they get access to the archetypes, but they get one specific stat line, which is like base level human. It's not too bad. And they can take equipment and weaponry up to rarity 8 from the trading post at creation, and then no restrictions going forward. The rest of your gang is going to be fleshed out with Hive Scum. Now, Hive Scum are the riffraff, the essentially like nameless rabble that the leader and maybe the champion or the delegation manage to pull around them to rally to their cause, whatever that may be. Hive Scum are really cheap, but they have very limited access to weaponry. It's really basic. There's no heavy or special weapons in their starting list. They can be promoted to specialists, but they don't start off as specialists. So you've got no access to any of that cool weaponry outside of your leader and your champion. And obviously they've got the restrictions on the rarity or whatever house restrictions they've got. A unique hanger-on to this book, but not to Outcast. Anyone can take this guy, is the Underhive Trader. He costs 50 credits. He takes one of 4 specialisms. So he's got Relic Monger, Beast Wrangler, Gunsmith, or Connected Trader. Each one of those specialisms offers a boon to your gang when you're trying to trade in one of those items, whether it's better access to certain items or additional dice to roll in certain situations, etc. Just a fun little addition to the game. There's a section in the book called Outlander Terrain, which includes rules for different terrain features that you're bringing in. So with the Outlander Terrain, so say you bought the gang stronghold or several gang strong. Right now, I know there were rules available for them, but they're included in here. So the walls, the watchtower, the gun slots, all of that's included in here. And you can just run that as part of your game, or it can be intrinsic to certain scenarios and also during the campaign. Another addition is the Underhive Market. Now we've just seen the model kit released for that alongside the book and the gang, and that fits perfectly with the pre-existing Zone Mortalis terrain, but obviously you can fit it into any existing Necromunda board, and it can just be a nice kind of narrative aesthetic, or you can run the rules so that when that's in the field of battle, whether that's part of somebody's settlement or just a random piece of hive that you're fighting over, you know, you might be knocking ammo crates over to get reloaded on those scarce weapons or whatever, or just get little boons or bits of creds that you find. It's just another way of fleshing out the world itself. One of the coolest aspects of this book is the new Wyrd powers. Now you've got 7 disciplines and 42 separate and totally unique psychic powers within here. The cool thing about this is that any psyker, sanctioned or unsanctioned, can choose to take the powers that they already had available to them, or they can scratch them off completely and take any one of these. Now there's bonuses attributed to taking all of your psychic powers from one discipline, and you can choose to focus and get that bonus. But another cool aspect is that you can just mix and match, so you can take the best from each. There's no limit to how many psychic powers you can learn via progression. So yeah, psykers have got a real boost from this book, and it's really cool. A bit of a shame that not anyone can just hire a Wyrd. This is only applicable to obviously the Outcast gang. You could have your leader as a Wyrd because that's one of the archetypes, your champion as a Wyrd because that's an archetype, or you could have both of them as Wyrds. I don't know how useful that would be. It would be pretty fucking fun given some of these powers. Gene State Occultists, Helot Cults and Dalak are all going to benefit massively from this. And I think we're going to see a lot more psychic based Gene State Occultists for a start. You've got the Biomancy discipline. Now that's apparently the psychic mastery of flesh and bone, so they're able to knit flesh together or conversely tear it apart. Now I'm just going to read one of these for you, and it's really cool, and it's called Cause Pain, and I think people aren't going to like it very much. With a twist of their hand, the Wyrd causes therefore to double over in unspeakable agony. Choose an enemy fighter that has already lost at least one wound or suffered at least one flesh wound, and that is within 18 inches in line of sight of this fighter. That fighter must now roll an injury dice and immediately apply the effects. That's pretty fucking cool. You've got Biomancy, Chronomancy, Divination, Pyromancy, Technomancy, Telekinesis and Telepathy. But really, really good to see that whole aspect of the game just fleshed out and given more. Now the campaign system within Book of the Outcast is the Outlander campaign, and it works around the central premise of building settlements. Now an Outcast gang doesn't have the privilege of belonging to headquarters or a sector or a dome, and has the comforts and the luxuries that those house affiliated gangs or merchant class or nobles, you know, do get the benefit of. And they're basically kind of stuck in the Underhive next to a shitty sewer outlet, and they're scraping what nutrients they can from that, or they're living in the bowels of a derelict manufactorum. And the way it works is that you're going to pick one of 5 settlement locations which all have defense, resources and toxicity level, which are all given a numerical value. You'll choose that. That's where you start. That's your gang hideout. That's where you live. That's where your little band of merry men and women are going to congregate, pool their resources and expand. You're going to build new buildings that are going to give you new boons throughout the campaign. The scenarios within here, the 5 unique scenarios, all give you ways to access more resources and materials, so that then you can go back to your settlement and expand that even further, prepare it for other people attacking. It starts off with the initial kind of settlement building, so you get a couple of weeks period, grace period, where you're going to be just finding your feet and setting everything up, and then after that it's all bets are off, balls to the wall, fuck each other over, grab as much as you can, burn their settlement down, build yours up, and essentially become the biggest badass in the Underhive. Now, the 5 unique scenarios that I mentioned earlier are all built specifically around pieces of terrain. So you've got like gunk tank, where you're trying to get bits of gunk, and that counts as resources towards building new buildings in your settlement. And it encourages you to represent that on the board with a physical object. There's a market-based scenario. Again, you can use the one that comes in the kit, or perhaps you're one of the guys who's built a ton of container shops out of the munitorium containers. You could use those. I'm really looking forward to running a campaign of this. As I did mention earlier, you do get a D66 table of unique tactics, and they're specific to the Outcast gang, so that you might not have the Cybertechnica or the legendary names or the Chem Alchemy, but you still get this to add some flavour to it. And along with the weird powers and the boons and bonuses you get from different affiliations, you're not lacking in unique flavour. Another really cool addition within this book is a trading post. It's a fairly updated trading post. It doesn't have the black market in, so you would need Book of Judgment for that, but it's a very comprehensive and from what I've had time to spend with, fully inclusive trading post for your gang to then go and shop at during the campaign after the initial gang creation. Okay, so Book of the Outcast, it's good. It's got lots of cool new shit to add to your game. It makes weird powers fucking really strong. It gives you a cool new way to play, totally unique gangs, a totally new campaign system. It's got a trading post. It's got a fucking trading post. Trading post. It might not be what you were expecting. There's no spires, there's no scavies, there's no rat skins, there's no ash wastes. It gives you the ability to kind of play as if you are on the outskirts of a hive, but it's Necromunda at its core still. It's really good at what it is. It's a really good way for Games Workshop to sell a lot of Forge World models. I'm not going to pretend that that can't be a lot of the drive behind this, and I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. People love those models and are maybe a bit annoyed when they can't get those models on the board regularly, unless they're just converting them or using them as proxies for members of other gangs. So I'm all for that. But mainly, it just lets you go absolutely fucking batshit crazy with your own creativity, your own imagination, making your own mark on a campaign with your own gang. You're doing it your way. There can't be 2 Outcast gangs that are even remotely similar with all of the variables that are in play. And that's great for a game like Necromunda that relies on variety and a narrative drive. So if you do have any more specific questions, then do ask them below, and if I can answer them, I will. I'm sorry that this isn't maybe as structured or as polished as some of my other reviews, but I've literally put this together in a night so I can get it out ready for pre-order tomorrow, so that you can go into the pre-order and have a little bit of knowledge about what it is that you're getting into, what you're paying for, and what you can expect to arrive on your doorstep a week after the pre-order period. Okay, so as I said earlier, I've got a couple of hobby videos coming up in the next couple of days. One's going to be how I create an energy field around mainframe, the prime for my Band Saga. and it's really kind of fun little thing that you can do to make force powers or electricity, or like I say, like a force field or displacer field. It's just a way of visually representing that. It's really cheap with a really crap glue gun that I've picked up for like £1 in a pound shop, so it doesn't require any expensive equipment, just a little bit of patience and a little bit of trial and error. And then I've got a few tutorials coming up on how I've created barbed wire for my Redemptionist, on how I've created flowing ribbons and cloth for my Redemptionist using tin foil, and how I've used some styrene on him as well. So I really do hope that you can come back and check those out, and until next time, I'll see you in the Underhive.